Welcome to Founder Tactics, a podcast about entrepreneurs and the communities that shape them. I am your host, Julia Lucidi. And today we'll be tuning in to a panel recorded live at the Fort Lauderdale Tech Meetup. During this panel, I moderated a discussion between Stephen Walbroehl, the co-founder and CTO at Halborn, and Felicita Sandoval, the co-founder of Latinas in Cyber. We had an intimate conversation about building a business in the field of cybersecurity, as well as an in-depth discussion about the opportunities and challenges in the industry. Before we get started, don't forget to subscribe on whichever platform you're listening to us now so that you don't miss out on any of the episodes that we release. And if you're ever in Fort Lauderdale, don't forget to come visit us at the Fort Lauderdale Tech Meetup. Check fortlauderdaletechmeetup.com to see our latest dates. Now let's jump in.
Can we do ladies first?
Fifi, if you'd like to introduce yourself and share a little bit about your background, that'd be great.
Yes, thank you so much, and thank you for inviting me. I'm so happy to be here. My name is Felicita, but you can call me Fifi. And I'm a cybersecurity specialist as well as an AI researcher. So what I do is that I belong to the global GRC part of cybersecurity, meaning governance, risk, and compliance. I manage a lot of the risk assessment audits, customer security, legal contracts when it comes in regards to security. And it's pretty exciting, now that AI is something that everybody wants to know. I've been working on that as well, understanding the societal impacts of artificial intelligence in our communities as well as in our workforce. And also I've been learning a lot and been talking about deep fakes and humanoids in physical AI. So a lot to talk about.
Very nice. Thank you.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So I'm Stephen Walbroehl. I am a South Florida native. I grew up in Fort Lauderdale here. I live in Miami right now. So I've been here my whole life. And I'll start with now. So currently I'm the co-founder of a company called Halborn, also CTO. We are founded in 2019, but it feels like 30 years. And we have about 250 employees around the world, where we do cybersecurity services and advisory. And we're expanding into really like the emerging technology focus for it. So we do blockchain is our primary one. We also do AI research and testing. We do gaming, cloud computing, edge computing, everything is kind of a cutting edge technology. We're the researchers to figure out how to break it. And then some of our clients, they hire us to come in and how to fix it. Because, without security, we all know that everything would just get taken over by all the hackers. So we provide that service. And we're kind of looked at from customers of ours like Citibank, BNY Mellon, all the way to Solana Foundation, even Mattel and some gaming companies. We do services for them. But my role there is CTO, so I'm like mostly internal. I'm like the hacker, like doing all the code in the computer. My partner, he's the one that out there doing the sales and marketing. So kind of culture officer too on that. But so that's a little bit about what I do right now, and I can't wait to talk about all this stuff with you guys.
Thank you for those awesome introductions. We clearly have two really incredibly experienced speakers here. So start thinking about some questions that you might want to ask. Towards the end of the panel, we're going to give some room for Q&A. So if you have questions about their background, their experience, how they got where they are, any questions about the market, just start thinking about those and we'll open it for Q&A at the end. So tell us a little bit about how you guys got into working with cybersecurity. Was that always what you had on your mind, or was the path a little different that led you there?
So when I have two masters. One is in computer engineering here at FAU. My first job out of college was actually at Florida Power Light, local electricity company. And I did not intend to do cybersecurity at all. I actually wanted to do code video games at the time. And then I started learning how to code, and all the magic from the video games kind of left. I was like, everything ended up being programs rather than, immersion. So I was working at FPL for a while, and this is around like 2008, 2009 when the economy kind of went down, and they started cutting a lot of jobs at the time. But they're like, well, that guy Steve's pretty good, and we need more cybersecurity people because there's a shortage of that. So they asked, would you like to go into cybersecurity? So I'm like, yeah, sure. And I started Blue Team for defending the power grid from all the infrastructure, and I became infatuated with like what the attackers were doing. like how the actual, the red teamers or the hackers. So I became obsessed and started getting all my certifications, OSCP, CEH, CISSP. My email signature was like a million lines long at one point. And then I kind of like worked at IBM after that and other companies, and learned a lot of different industries where I saw what they were doing good, what they were doing bad with people in the company, and the way that they approached services, and took all the good parts and made my own company, Halborn, from that to provide kind of like high quality, excellent service, but focus on the individuals in the company and gamifying it. So I'll talk more about that later on. So that's how I started.
Did you start Halborn by yourself?
So I started Halborn with one other person. It was two of us that bootstrapped it from zero. And I was working at IBM and doing some contracting here and there. Don't tell them. But he was like, Steve, my job here is to make you quit your jobs and only be an entrepreneur and start a company. So he's a genius sales marketing person, ended up getting all the clients for us.
Gosh, that's so important.
Yeah, it is very important for it. I learned a lot from him. He's learned a lot from me. He doesn't know anything about security, but he ended up really knowing what to deliver the clients. And it was like good cop, bad cop. He would bring them in and I would mess up their applications. And they're like, oh my God, you guys are really good for it. And then word would come, word of mouth. We were bootstrapped all the way to where we are now, where we did a $90 million Series A raise a couple of years ago with a private equity company to like kind of help build our apps and do more research. So that's where I know.
Yeah, maybe we can talk about that $90 million raise and some of the learnings from that in a bit.
Yeah, we can talk tech or VC. How many company owners or entrepreneurs are here compared to cyber?
Yeah. There's an entrepreneur. Raise your hand.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So we can talk about doing that, funding and stuff, and then cybersecurity as well.
Very cool. So my story on how I got to cybersecurity goes way back until I was a little kid. It had nothing to do with cybersecurity, by the way. I have a bachelor's in film, making movies, screenwriting, and I always wanted to be a writer and a filmmaker. So all my scripts that I will write will be about hackers and scientists, and since I was a little kid. So then in my 20s, I got my bachelor's in film. I worked in TV. I worked on theater. I also did some commercials and movies, and then I needed a plan B because, it's really hard to make it into Hollywood. So I started thinking, what is it that I like? And I already knew a lot of technology because of my research for writing and films. So I decided to get into my master's in cybersecurity. So I started my plan B when I was 19, working in the financial industry. So I worked for 7 years in the financial industry as a financial specialist. And then I transitioned into fraud investigations until I got my master's in cybersecurity. I worked for the federal government for about 5 years. I did a lot of anti-money laundering investigations, anti-piracy investigations. And then I finally was able to transition into cybersecurity. So I transitioned 3 times. So I know it's scary for those transitioners that want to get into cybersecurity. About almost 4 years ago, I got into cybersecurity in the GRC, in the global GRC department, governance, risk, and compliance. And now after I accomplished what I wanted, which was to get into cybersecurity, I said, I want to do something else because I always want to learn. So I decided to get into a PhD program. Yeah, of course.
All the transitions, it makes you a well-rounded cybersecurity person.
Well-rounded, but yeah, so I got into my PhD in cybersecurity, so computer science. And I research a lot of artificial intelligence. That's how I got into research. And in hopes for building my company, which is CyberWise. I'm still building it, right? And it's in regards to helping companies with their AI readiness and implementation, especially small businesses, Series A and Series B. A lot of them don't have enough budget, and they don't have the right professionals because they don't have the money to pay them to help them integrate AI into their system. So that's what I've been working on, and that's my story. So a failed actor and filmmaker making it into cybersecurity.
I think there's a lot of creative people in cybersecurity. It's like everybody I meet, I'm a musician, you're an actor. So
tell me a little bit about what are some of the obstacles or challenges that you faced in your career? I think it would be nice to focus on the cybersecurity aspect of it, since that's the topic of the panel. And just how did you overcome some of those obstacles?
Well, back when I think about getting my first job, they always say entry-level job, requirements here, and some experience needed. I'm like, that's not entry-level if some experience is needed for that. But, I did a lot of internships and stuff during college, and I think it's more about networking. So being here, this event, that people recommendations really help out to kind of break the ice if you're doing it for the first time. If you're in your career, I think that you have this comment too when you're telling your story, having a lot of the transitions and working at a lot of different industries, not to say like jobs hop all the time, but you're exposed to different aspects of security. So, the privacy and GRC, and, myself, I did a little bit of that too, but I also did blue team and defense. I did web application security. I did pen testing and red teaming, and I did it for different companies. I get the well-rounded experience to provide a lot of value on doing things. And I think some of the barriers to entry is, trying to meet the level of expectation sometimes that competitors or other people for getting a job you have, because LinkedIn resume says one thing, but a lot of the skills that you need to have and actual real world skills is hard to acquire when you're first getting started. So it's probably a big deal.
Yeah, for sure. How about you, Fifi?
Yeah, no, I mean, similar to those challenges as well, but also it's when you're transitioning from a non-technical role. And I see a lot of people have this issue too, and this challenge, which is, how do I learn technology if I don't have hands-on experience? Because I had the experience of auditing investigations, and which you use that also in compliance when you work in cybersecurity in the GRC part. But when it comes to technology and really having that technical experience with coding, with understanding at networking, it's really tough. So I remember when I started about 5 years ago, I was so afraid. I'm like, I'm not going to get a job. I don't know the technical part. But what I did is that I worked a lot with a lot of courses online as well as in school. I started getting into lab. But what really helped me was the National Cyber League, which is CTF's Capture the Flag, a lot of competitions. I remember my first one, I went in blind. I was like, I have no idea what's going on here. And there were like 12 obstacles, and I only did 3. I was the happiest person. I went out there like, yeah.
Those are so funny.
Yes, they are. I was like, yes, I did it. And then I started signing up in all of them until I became an ambassador for the National Cyber League, and I started helping people getting into CTFs. But that's the challenge. It's just, if you're not technical, how you're going to get into the space with all the skills.
Yeah. Did you do a lot of different courses or certifications at all for when you were?
I didn't do certifications, and luckily, I didn't have to get a certification to get in because I was already a CFE, a Certified Fraud Examiner. So they really liked that background. And my company, which is an amazing company that I'm still working with them, they were willing to train me on the technical part. And they just, but they really liked that investigations. I
did SANS, for cybersecurity. Anybody have SANS or taken any of their courses before? A couple? Yeah, that's cool. They're very good for hire. They're very expensive, but companies hire them, bring them in. And I ended up doing this CTF. They have called Net Wars, and they have regional competitions. I got all the way to Washington, D.C., and I won the nationals on there against NSA and DOD and FBI. And I was like, whoa, it's awesome. Got a big trophy for it. And it was awesome. Yeah.
So wars are cool. Working in cybersecurity, do you guys see a shortage in talent and a need for more talent to be injected into the market?
Yeah, that's why, my company, Halborn, is completely remote, where, we don't have to look locally for talent, because that would be extremely hard. So we have a global team, a lot of people in Europe, Spain and Poland, and some people in South America. The way that we find talent is from, we put out a CTF. That's the way that we attract, and kind of rather than spending time on interviews all day long for maybe, you have a nice resume, but, not really qualified for the job, you have to hack your way into the company, for the engineering positions. We have a GitHub repository out there. They download the code, they make a report, they send the report into, the recruiting email, and then the ones that are good, we're like, okay, these people know what they're doing. Let's talk to them and make sure they're, cool people, and they're there for the right reasons. So we find it, they kind of build it and they will come. It's kind of been that way, where, the cybersecurity, I think, is unique. They're challenges. They like this capture the flag, the game, winning the game. So
yeah, that's one thing I started to notice a bit in our conversations together is having it's a profile of a person who likes the challenge, who's pretty competitive, even with it seems to be essential to the task in itself.
Yeah, I think you're right. When you're saying about having how do you get your tech experience from the beginning? You have to really like doing it. I think if you don't like doing it, it's going to be hard, because you put in that extra mile in the beginning to like, I call it the hacker hole, like where you're just like in the hacker hole, like doing it, and then you like say, oh my God, I need to pee. I've been here for like 12 hours.
Yeah, I do notice that a lot, like there's some people who are passionate, but a lot of the people that I have encountered, mentees that come to me, they want to do it because of the money. And I tell them, oh no, you're not, it's going to be very difficult for you if you're going to do it for the money. I know the money is good and it's nice, but you really have to love this. That's why when people will ask me, compliance audits, that's boring. And I'm like, it's not boring to me. I love it. So CTFs is very helpful. Capture the flags is really helpful to get your technical skills on, because right now it's so difficult to get in. It's very, very competitive. I got lucky that I didn't need a certification in cybersecurity. However, it's very rare now that companies accept that. They want you to have your certifications in order for them to at least give you an interview.
Yeah, we actually, I don't even care. Maybe I shouldn't say this, but I don't really care if they went to college or not to hire them. I just like, they have certifications. So like, we have a saying called proof of work. That's because we do a lot of blockchain, and Bitcoin is proof of work system. But our culture is like proof of work is like, hey, if you've proven how good you are, your skills, or your determined or motivation, that's really more important than a CV to us.
Is it important to maintain that competitive culture once folks get into the role in cybersecurity, like from a management perspective and working with teams?
The competitive role that we have, we actually do that in the company right now as part of it. We have a gamification, which is making a scoreboard that we have, and like every time they find vulnerabilities or they finish projects for clients, they get paid their bonuses from that. So a critical finding, or if they found like a 0-day exploit that gets published in a database, or they put out a talk on like a new tool that they wrote. All of that stuff is like actually they get cash bonuses for that, so it keeps the competitive. Also for team building too. If you're a founder for a remote company, you have to keep motivation there too, because we don't have a clock in or clock out. I don't really even care if they work 1 hour a week. If that 1 hour is like they could do what 20 hours takes usually, that's what matters, is like the results and like
How about you, Phoebe? How do you see that?
If you see what he made for his team, and hold the mic a little. If you see what he made for his team, is amazing. I mean, I saw it the other day. Oh my God, I have an email drafted to go and meet him in a few weeks. Just so I want to see.
Yeah.
I want to see how you built it.
Are you talking about like the NFTs, metaverse? Yeah.
All of his employees have like a profile, and they get to. Do you have like a money pile?
Yep.
And they get to report like the bugs that they found, the vulnerabilities, and they compete with it.
Every quarter we have is called the TVL, the total value locked. And you submit these things inside of like a game inside the company, and at the end we tally it all up, and there's a governance program that like will rank it all, and then it's divided equally based on the contributions you have. But we also have a metaverse museum. I can share the link later on if anybody wants to see it, but you explore it and you'll have all the employee profiles of like the CVEs that they found. We have like a gallery of the vulnerabilities, and then anniversaries. So if you worked at the company for a year, you'll get an image, and then 2 years you'll get like the gold version, and 3 years the platinum, and like it's all on display for culture building.
I just think it's such a great resource what you have done, because I've always thought like, how can we teach? And I'm going to talk about non-technical workforce. How can we teach the non-technical workforce about technology? And how can we make it engaging? Because a lot of people, you have your security training every year that you have to do for your company. And you cannot lie to me, you're going to be clicking on that really fast to get over it, to already have it done. So I think that what you have invented is something that is going to help not only technical people, but non-technical people to learn.
Yeah, we started one of our business segments that we're starting to build a lot is training, for this emerging tech. And so if I wrote the blockchain security course for SANS, it's a 5-day on blockchain security, and I was teaching people from the Federal Reserve Bank and Microsoft and PayPal when they were all starting to get into cryptocurrency, and they asked me to make the course because I took all the ones from their institute. They're like, you ran out of courses to take, so you want to write one for us? I'm like, sure, that sounds great. So did that one. Actually, that was really good for our business too, because it's like a 5-day marketing pitch to the students pretty much, because they come back and we are clients. But education, we're now doing that, offering it at our company, and we're testing it internally first. Like, provide education to our employees so that they can learn, vet it, get feedback for it. Then we go to market with it. And that's the thing about cybersecurity. You have to continually learn. You can't graduate and be like, all right, I know everything. I'm going to, crush it in the real world.
That's the most fascinating thing about technology. And that's why I love being in technology and working in technology, is because every day you're learning. It's like a camp for nerds. I'm saying it in a good way. It's a camp for nerds. Every day you're learning something new. And I love being part of it. And I think that's what we have, like a culture that we have to instill. And that's why I'm still raving about what you invented. And I couldn't believe it had nothing to do with what you sell. It's just for your employees.
Yeah, it's just for us. I was like, I talked to my business partner, I'm like, should we sell this?
I thought, man, we should make an app together, buddy. Like,
yeah, that's right. Yeah, right now it's like our secret weapon internal for like, how do we, how are our margins better than our competitors? Because we have a couple other cybersecurity firms, and like we're doing much better for them. And I think it's not really what we sell; it's what we do internally to like optimize and motivate, and it's all about. Here's actually something interesting related to that. At your company, a lot of consulting firms like legal or others, they charge it by the hour, like billable hours, like 8 hours is this much per hour, and a lot of like the security companies charge that way too. We don't, because it just didn't make sense to me. It's like, if you're a really good cybersecurity hacker, why would I charge you more for them to take longer? If they're good, they'll come in, they'll take 1 hour, and you'll get better results than...
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll give you my junior engineer who's going to take a month to do it, and we'll make, it's incentivized you to.
Yeah, by the result.
Exactly, yes.
Yeah.
Charge that way, or like retainer, like, monthly costs, and then, we, depending on how many things we do for you, it goes up.
Awesome. I'd love to pivot the conversation a little bit towards market insights. And AI is a topic that is huge, and now it's being paired with cybersecurity and connecting to cybersecurity. Can you guys take us down that path of what are you guys seeing with AI and cybersecurity? Should we be terrified? What can we do? And, shed some light on that.
I mean, terrified, not yet. But let's not give our secrets away. I think that what I'm more afraid when it comes to artificial intelligence is mostly small businesses. Like I mentioned, I'm afraid for them because I don't want them to stay behind. I want them to succeed as well. So they do need people like us to help them bring that implementation into their business. So that's what I'm afraid of. But in regards to cybersecurity and AI security, it's just bringing artificial intelligence to your company and adding it to the frameworks that you have, to your reports that you already are working on, your physical security, your asset management. That's what I meant. Your asset management, and just adding it to your current policies and procedures. But you do have to have a different kind of approach, because as in a company, the most important thing to safeguard besides your digital systems is data, right? Because if not, you're going to be in a lot of legal trouble with your clients. And if you read your contracts, you're going to see why. So you want to make sure that you have the right vendor management process in place to make sure that even if you're going to do the same thing as you do with other third parties, whenever you're using their tools or whenever you're using their services, you're going to do something similar with AI technologies that you're bringing into the company, but you're going to have to add a level of governance to it. Like, who's going to have access to these tools, and what kind of data are you going to be using, and is this data going to be used to train the models? So you have to be very careful, and that's where it ties in together. It's just not only defending it, which you can talk a lot more about that, but it's also about what is the governance with data, with access, with risk management, bringing that risk into the company, how risky it is.
Is AI making the attacks more sophisticated?
Oh yeah, for sure.
It's easier.
Yeah, I think it's market's insights for that. Can talk about as a AI user business, or if you want to talk about disruptive. But disruptive, yes, I think there's a lot of jobs out there. I mean, if you guys have used it, AI, not just ChatGPT, but legal jobs. I've had things. My general counsel of our company that we pay a lot, ask them things, and then I'll ask Claude AI or something, and Claude will give me the better answer in 10 seconds rather than a week-long meeting spree. So there's a lot of value in it, and I think it's one of those things that will start to grow a lot. But with that comes the risk part, because it's a different approach for it. So the way we're looking at it for research for AI is all the businesses that are integrating this very fast. Like it's just like out of nowhere. It's like getting like, extremely, because of how useful it is. There's unforeseen risks in new technology, and the same approach around like the CI triad: confidentiality, integrity, availability. One of those three things is going to be at risk with threats over time. And then the approach you had mentioned, you're right about that, is the approach is how do you protect against that? How do you do a risk assessment to see where the exposures lie, introducing this new kind of untested tech into your business. So that's the way we're looking at it, is building a framework and kind of like advising on how it can impact that.
Do you guys see companies migrating towards cybersecurity a little too late when like things have already happened?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's like there's a thing in DevOps called shift left, if you've ever heard that term. That means like do security earlier in your development process, the SDLC, because if you do it at the very end, we're going to find something and we're going to mess you up, and you're going to have to start over again on a lot of like the core stuff. So if you think about security, not just like pen testing, but even like policy and compliance from the very beginning, and then the code security, it's going to be a lot. You're not going to have a bad time. You're going to save a lot.
A lot of not the company itself, but the employees, right? When you think about security, they always think about pen testing. Oh, hackers, we have hackers in the company. And they don't really think about the policies that we have to have in place, the governance reviews that have to be in place, the situation with customer security, where customers want to know about your security posture. So that's very important. And when you deal with developers, and I think and engineers, they get very anxious because they just want to get the product pushed already, and they just want to get their creation ready, and they are willing to jump the steps when it comes to security because they think it's already pen tested.
Yeah, like separating production data from your test data. That's like the thing. There is if they were going fast, they'll just use the production data here. It's like now your test data is your test environment is production. So,
yeah.
So there's a lot of compliance policy rules that you should follow as you go through it. It might be a little slower, but it'll save you risk in the end.
And let me explain. I'm not sure if everyone here is cybersecurity, maybe not, but when it comes to data and testing, you have the testing and then you have the production environment. You have to make sure that there is no sensitive data in the testing environment. And that's why there's governance process where you go through the project that they want to, that they're running, and you want to see like what kind of data it's going to be in this testing environment, and you want to check all of the the code and what they're using.
And does it work too? Functional testing, like that big issue that just happened recently with CrowdStrike. You guys all. No, they failed that. That was not.
I was playing too, but I was not.
Yeah. Yeah, they didn't do proper testing. Like in the test environment for like the.
You saw the code, right? I mean
like the Windows update.
But is that cybersecurity related still? Even though it is. It is.
Yeah, that really what happened. It's more like SDLC, like software development related, and they failed to test an update to their tool, the CrowdStrike antivirus, on all the new Windows updates, and it broke Windows, so they just pushed it out live to all their customers, which everybody uses it, and it shut down the Windows operating system. So they didn't have a good test, procedures to make sure all new updates are done, correctly, and it's not going to break anything.
So technically, it displays a cybersecurity fragility.
It's systemic risk,
right,
as how many people use that, and we got to see everybody that shut down probably uses that with Windows, and it was a big impact for things too. Supply chain, it was really supply chain risk.
And by the way, just in case, SDLC is software development lifecycle, and it's part of what policies and also what developers have to follow.
Yeah, making code, like new code, how it goes from code to somebody using it.
Thank you for explaining for us common folks.
South Dakota Law Center.
Okay, next hot topic is deepfakes and what we're doing about those, and are people going to start acting like they're me, and how do I tell people it's not me?
I think you are a deepfake already.
Oh no.
Yeah, it's part of like I consider it a new, like the next generation of social engineering. Social engineering, everybody knows what phishing emails are, and getting convincing you to click the link, or how many people got like phone calls from, hello, I'm Microsoft help team, your password has been compromised, log in. Like they're always trying to trick you and stuff, and they're convincing, and all the compliance is usually for like recognizing that in emails. But now I think the next generation is deepfakes, where I heard a story about somebody that had a deepfake voice transmitter that they modeled off of like their daughter's voice, and called them up and saying like, "Daddy, help me!" And it's like, and like, they're saying it's like, you can panic like, it might be deepfake, but I'm not gonna take the risk. I'll still like send them whatever they want, and it's getting really like scary because there's a thing called Advanced Persistent Threat (APT), and that's where they do research on like a company or an individual, find out about their background, maybe what memberships they have, what their family's name are, and they'll use that to build like an attack profile against you. So it could be not just getting lucky. It's like something that's personal to you and makes you take it. It's a huge risk that's coming out here. So deepfake security awareness might be a great thing to really hone in on.
Yeah, no, and there's so many cases already, especially internationally outside of the United States. There are more cases right now. Spain is the #1 country that gets attacked more with deepfakes. But then also, I just read a story as well. A few months ago, the courts, Virginia, Texas, California, they got together and they started kind of implementing our training and a detection tool as well to detect deepfakes on evidence that's been submitted, image and video evidence, and that it seems to be a problem now, and it's rising. So that's actually pretty interesting. Have you read about?
There's ways that you can like detect deepfakes. It's called the blink test, and it'll like watch as they're talking, like how many, if they don't blink or if they blink at weird times. There's like an algorithm that shows like when humans typically like. Now I'm thinking about it. I'm blinking as I go.
Yeah, it's affecting companies. It's affecting the community too. When you were talking about the community, people are using it for extortion. And right now, what I think, and I'm trying to like think of solutions. And one of those is, first of all, we need to include some type of deepfake training in our security awareness every year for all of our employees. But second, we should also, like organizations should also implement some kind of workshop, maybe hire a third party to train their staff, especially their C-suite staff on deepfakes, because they're the ones that are targeted the most.
Yep.
They target a CFO to sit, and it's a CEO in the deepfake to transfer money.
Targeted. I'll tell you a story about, not really deepfake, but something very advanced, like a spear phishing. So me and my business partner I was talking about, he had a baby, and he was taking paternity leave. It was like 2 years ago. And we communicate a lot on Telegram and Signal. I got a message from him like the day after the paternity started, and it had his same profile picture on there, and the name. After I checked it, it had one character switched. Like his name's Rob Benke, and it was BEHN instead of BENH. You would have not a second, but he messaged me. He's like, "Hey, I can't get to it right now, but can you send me some Bitcoin? I need to pay a client before I take leave on paternity." And I was like, "Whoa!" Like, so they knew he was on paternity that day. They knew about this. They had his profile. Like, they targeted me, and I was like, "That's kind of weird." Like something, my hacker instincts kicked in, and I was like, and I know how he transacts. Like, sure, you don't have your ledger with you, and ledger's like a wallet that they use, and he uses Trezor, so it was kind of like a test to see if he's like, "What are you talking about, ledger? I use Trezor." And he was like, "No, I left my ledger at home." Like, that's not Rob. So I looked into it, and it was somebody was creating a profile to like trying to trick me as executive. So it's out there, and I think the impact on it that we're going to see is like users. You're going to see a lot of like a lot harder to like access things. Like if you call to get a wire transfer, you're going to have like so many hoops to run through. So now it's going to be like deteriorate user experience, I think.
What can users or just us people do to be better prepared to not fall into those situations? Is there anything that we can, I don't know, I think it can come in ways that you just don't expect in such a sophisticated way, like with your, your co-founder.
Yeah, just first thing is like use your instincts a lot. Sometimes if something just feels fishy, double think it, especially like things you look for like any sense of urgency. Like if it's an urgent or feels urgent, it shouldn't be. It's usually a sign. Yeah, that's a big thing. Two is like just not something you would expect, like out of the routine or normal operations. So there's like a couple little indicators that double think of and a few things there for it.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a human reaction when someone calls you and you hear your mother's voice or your child's voice. So I'm sure that I will panic as well. But I think you have to try to take your time to actually see, is this my son? Let me call him from another phone. Let me see if this is really this person. If it's a video, then you just want to make sure that you pay attention, because a lot of, even though deepfakes is out there and it's getting better and better, it's still not that great. So you can actually notice when you look at the hair, at the face, at the eye movement. But the first thing you want to do is first call them from another phone to see if actually is this real. And second, you should call the police. I mean, that's
I think that the bigger threat is more the public threat to it, because we've been talking about targeting an individual or a company, but using deepfakes for like national security, I think that's even bigger risk, because if you can convince the masses, and it's kind of like they hype up, say, hey, did you see that thing on TV, or you saw that news, the deepfake, and everybody else is like confirming and validating it. Now you have like a social acceptance of something that's fake. And I think that's a bigger risk if it ends up going to there, like what is real news, what is, fake news, what is real things that you see, what is fake. It's going to be very hard to tell with all that.
And it's a lot more work to do the research than to just read a headline or see a video.
That's right. Yeah, because you'll ask, the research could be like, asking your friend, and your friend believes it. And now it's just kind of cascades from there.
Yeah, I think this is also why a lot of like independent news platforms are growing more, because folks want to hear from trusted, reliable, non-major media. Exactly. So these are growing a lot. So I'd assume that we would see that continue to grow, considering the risks that exists with cybersecurity, deepfakes, all that stuff. Yeah,
they're just trying to like control a narrative pretty much. And so just awareness for all that is the number
awareness that we live in a different world than it was 10, 15, 20 years ago, that things are changing really fast, and we need to think more critically and much more differently about the information that's coming towards us. And that's really hard to convince your, almost 70-year-old mom. But
same thing.
And we have concerns, for our parents who, get on WhatsApp and believe, will click anything. And it's how do we kind of protect them from these? Because they're the more vulnerable.
I've seen my mom do it. My mom on the computer, and somebody logged into her computer. I'm like, no, Mom, don't do that. Why you?
They always do.
Yeah, they always do.
But that's today. Actually, Kevin Cochran is not here today, but he wrote an article in a magazine for the country of Mexico. And I loved it because he was talking about how WhatsApp now has the marketplace and is super successful. So they're bringing artificial intelligence to Mexico. And one of the things that I replied was, well, WhatsApp now needs to actually create content, educational content for people. If you're able to do a marketplace, you're able to have those courses there for people, everyone, our parents, from young to old, to see these videos and get educated, because there has to be a way to educate people and reach them. And what better way than social media? WhatsApp, Instagram, people who use Facebook, and so forth. Yeah.
So we have different folks here who are also entrepreneurs. We have investors in the crowd as well. It'd be interesting to hear from you both. Do you have any advice for founders who are building a company in cybersecurity right now to stand out? How do you stand out amidst the competition and really grow a company in cybersecurity?
So one thing is timing. The markets interest rates changing. I would say if you're starting a company 4 years ago, it's much easier than it would be right now. But aside from the timing part, are you making a cybersecurity application, like a product, or are you providing a service? You're going to have different types of investors that go into that, and those types of what's that? It's a deep fake. Yeah. So if you're a founder and you have a company that you're starting and you wanted to raise capital or get investors to come in for it, there's the part of profitability and recurring revenue. Are you profitable now? It's going to be a lot easier to go out and to market, because they always want to see like, oh, show me your balance sheet and your budget. But if you're building a product, you need investment to further that. So you have to be good at the forecasting part of it all, and show what is the addressable market. Where does your product fit? What's the competitors look like in the app that you're building, and what are the clients that you could have access to or you can get into, and then having a good CFO or being good at finances is good. And then the due diligence part is make sure you are compliant. You do your own security. Make sure the people, the background checks, because we did our fundraise with private equity group, and private equity is much more strict than venture capital. So they like me personally. They called like my friend from high school, like, 20 years ago that I took a test with and found out like they go really deep. So having, just be honest with that during the due diligence process, because I'll find out eventually.
How about you?
So you already said everything that I was going to say, but
Sorry, yeah.
no, I love
You go first next time.
I know it. No, because now I'll just talk about the beginning of it. If you're actually building a company, because right now that's what I am actually working on building my company. And one of the most important things to have in mind is if you're thinking of building a company and you're afraid because you think your idea it's not working out, or you're changing your business model, it's going to change 1,000 times. That's it. You just have to go ahead and jump into the fire and really just do it. But two very important things to do as you're actually building your company is to get an advisors, right? And you get a mentor. Because an advisor will advise you on your company, and it will advise you on expertise that you lack. So if you are a good salesperson or you're good at executing the vision, but you don't know the financial part, the investment part, then you're going to need an advisor that can advise you and guide you through that. And advisors, you pay for them, right? You pay them with equity or with however you want to pay them. But then a mentor is going to help you personally, develop you, help you, guide you into what you want. Like what is it that you want? What is your goal? So it's super important, because once you have that support from both sides, especially a mentor, because a mentor is not going to play around. You don't pay them. Also, mentors you don't pay, right? So they're going to be straight honest with you. And you have to take their time very seriously, because it's for free, right? Yeah. And they give you a lot of knowledge, right? So the advisor will give you a lot of knowledge on the business, because of course they want you to succeed because they have equity now and they want to make money. But your mentors are going to really put you there and really tell you when you're falling off the tracks, and they will get you back up. But you have to think for yourself, of course, when you do that. And once you have that established, you're going to be able to kind of stay in the line, and you're allowed to get out of the line and maybe think outside the box. But there will always advisors and mentors will get you back on track. That's important. I've seen so many people that have tried and they don't have any of that, and they don't know what to do.
Yeah.
They're just lost.
That was great. Thank you so much. I'd like to ask Steve a question. You raised $90 million, and that probably felt really exciting.
A little bit.
How did you see that strategically at the time, and how that you're raising? And then after you got the money in your company and you started applying it and you're like, wow, this is a lot of money. How did you feel about it afterwards?
Yeah, that's, we could talk about that all night long if you want to. But the interesting thing is when we went out to raise capital, we're profitable, and we weren't particularly like building a product, and we weren't running red, and we had runway. We wanted to like have a war chest, because, a lot of our competitors were doing it, especially like in, the blockchain and cryptocurrency. They market it, and we're like, man, we have all of our competitors raised, like this company Certic, they raised like 120 million. Like, how are we going to like maintain ourselves if times get tougher in the future economically, if we don't have our war chest and they do? So we went out doing that. We wanted to do 30, we ended up doing 90. And those funds, we didn't want to like waste it either too. We didn't want to like just burn through it on like research projects that, don't go anywhere. And we actually haven't really spent a lot of it. We're still sitting on a lot of that right now, because we are profitable. And we had a couple companies we acquired, like, startup security companies that were doing the same thing as us. It was more like acqui-hire, like acquire but hire them. Like, hey, those guys are talented. Let's just, buy the company and then they can work for us. So we did that a couple of times. But yeah, the capital for the research and development, I think that, we only want to focus on a lot of value. And because we're cutting edge technology, there wasn't many products to use the capital for that was a market fit, which is why we're doing advisory now. Like, we're helping people build something so that then we could sell the product to them that they've built, if it's a security. Mm-hmm. They can't secure something that doesn't exist yet. So
it's not necessarily best to always raise as much money as possible.
No,
because if you don't need it, that's not a great thing that you...
It also depends like the type of deal that you sign with your investors too. If you private equity, they can have a preferred yield. Is one, which is pretty much it's not investment. It's like a debt because they're gonna you're part of a vintage, the funds there, and they have certain like carried interest rate. You have to meet the hurdle rate, and it's like having a 5% or 10% interest rate on your investment and they care more about profitability than growth. That's like the main difference I've noticed between private equity and venture. One is about good companies that are profitable like us, that are stable, that can, maintain EBITDA. And then there's the venture ones which invest in like a bunch of bets, and like maybe 5 of them don't work out, but one of them blows up. So that's the different type of strategy is, do you want to go for like VC investment where you want kind of more, passive investors that, believe in your product and let you kind of, go out and market, or do you want to be part of the more governance from private equity that will, make your company very lean and, kind of stay on path, but be very risk, averse for it, for some things too. So that's a personal choice between the two. Luckily, we're profitable still, and I think that it can be painful, but you can learn a lot from that. So.
Yeah, great. Thanks so much. So last question before we open up for questions from the audience. So keep in mind what you guys want to ask. I'll start with Fifi. So I love talking about community because I love building community. I think that there's a lot of power in collaboration, and together we can accomplish much more than trying to do things by ourselves. How is community a part of the solution when it comes to cybersecurity in any aspect that you see?
Community is very important. Thank you. I'm a co-founder of Latinas in Cyber, and I think that's a perfect example of community where we help train women, Latin women, into getting into cybersecurity. So we get vouchers from companies that sponsor us, and we're able to train them in Security Plus, in cybersecurity engineering. And we have already had 500 cohort that have graduated from the Google cybersecurity certification. We have another 500 that graduated from the ISC cybersecurity engineering as well, and we're working towards a Security Plus as well. So it's so important to have these initiatives. And by the way, Latinas in Cyber also takes anyone. Like no matter the background, the gender, we still get everyone. But we're focused on women and Latinas because we're underrepresented in the technology community. But super important. And there's many other organizations that are also available. We have one called Somos, Latinas in tech, women's in AI. Actually, they're amazing as well. So this type of initiatives is what we need in the community, and we need organizations to support these communities as well. Super important.
Yeah. Community, I'll take 2 approaches on it. One is like our internal community that we have, and then some of the external in our industry. For internal, like community the culture and community is extremely important. And we do every year, like a company retreat. This year we went to Thailand. We flew every employee out to Thailand. They all had their own cabana. We did a 5-day, just, some snorkeling, something.
We apply by the way.
I was just going to say, do you guys want a job? Come on here. And we did Mallorca, Spain the year before. We did Lisbon the year before. And it's always like it makes it, we want it to be like awkward. And when you get back to your desk and you're like talking to them on Slack, like, man, I wish we were like back together again. So it does that. It keeps it, loyalty for that. The external community part of it all, we're in the crypto community kind of focus, which is our main business. They call them ecosystems, and we structure our entire business around those ecosystem communities. Like most consulting or service companies, they'll have like regions, like, oh, you're like the southeast region, or you're European region. We don't do that because everybody's remote, and even our clients, for the most part, we do ecosystem and community focused rings. So like you are the Bitcoin ecosystem, you're the Ethereum ecosystem, you're the Solana ecosystem, and they have their own culture themselves. And if you know about those communities and you kind of speak their language and attend their events and do all that, you're going to build a lot of loyalty from that. So we're very community oriented when it comes to our service delivery. But it could be kind of unique in the aspect of what we do.
And I want to add something very important that I didn't know for startups as well. There are organizations and schools like Nova University, the Levant Center of Innovation, and they do have an amazing program for startups. They have cohort from ideate to incubate to accelerate and so forth. I think those programs are amazing. I think we don't hear a lot about them, right? But they are available. So if you are looking into programs that are going to help you in the startup business, especially in technology, you should look into your local communities, local colleges, local universities, such as Nova, that can actually help you, and you can take advantage of all of the programs that they offer.
Yeah, especially in nowadays world, because I feel like after COVID, a lot of people are like working remote now, and they're all kind of going back into their home offices. I like face-to-face things like this, like events like digital ones are just they're good, maybe more true, but it's not like there's something about like the human touch for everything too. And I think those like relationships are stronger and last better. So going out to them and attending them and meeting them is like you never know where opportunity comes from, no matter what. It could be you go for one thing and then you end up leaving us with some other relationship.
Totally. And one of the things that we had also talked about on our call was crypto ISAC, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yes.
So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So in the cybersecurity world, ISAC is a kind of like an incident response group of people that have all agreed to share updates on like issues that happen. Like you could crypto ISAC is the version where you have government participants like the United States Treasury and FBI. You have independent banks like Bank of New York, security companies like ours and others. We're all part of this like private network of communication to share information with each other. And this is just not this isn't a public meetup, but it's like a secure information channel, like Sticks, if you're like Sticks or whatever. So is that, and we give like alerts and updates to them and messages to help each other. In even though some of us might be competitors in there, but it's value that we both get from it no matter what. So that's a very unique one for cybersecurity, at least.
And I wanted to also mention that a very important part of community is LinkedIn, actually. Yeah. Networking in LinkedIn, you're going to find so many people that are passionate, especially in the cybersecurity and the technology world. And there you can not only make connections, but also you're going to maybe meet your future mentor. That's where I met one of my mentors. And that's how I actually put my word out there and begin and build my brand. Mm-hmm. So I think that if you are able to leverage networking with your LinkedIn, I think it's going to work wonders. And just make sure that you talk about your work, that you talk about what you want, your passions. You engage with other people's posts that you're actually following that interest you. And if you keep that engagement and you keep those connections, and then you come to events like this, of course, then you're going to be able to find something that you didn't know. You could find like a job or maybe some training, mentorship, like I mentioned. So just make sure that you look into LinkedIn more closely.
Yeah, also coming to events here, they're not a deep fake because you're right there.
And that wraps up another episode of the Founder Tactics podcast. Thank you so much for listening. And if you made it this far, I guess you really enjoyed it. So don't hesitate, share this with a friend. It's really the biggest way that you can help us. Nothing beats word to mouth. I could tell you to like, to subscribe, and to give us all the accolades online. But really, when you just hit that share button and share it with someone, that's what really makes the biggest impact in helping our channel grow. So thank you so much for sticking around, and we'll see you at the next episode.